Hey everybody, I'm Kristy Titus and I want to welcome you to my latest edition of Tips from the Wild as part of my Pursue the Wild digital series. Now today I'm going to be talking with you all about some early season elk hunting strategies that I think you guys will all find extremely helpful this archery elk season. Starting out, I think it's really important that you do some pre-season scouting. If you can go in the field, do some scouting and find out where those bachelor bulls are living, chances are come opening weekend, they're going to be in the same general area. A lot of hunters wait for the peak of the rut to start archery elk hunting, and I really think that that's a huge mistake. If you have some time in the summer to locate those bachelor groups of bulls while they're in the velvet, chances are, unless there's a lot of pressure from predators, they're going to be in the same area that they're summering come opening weekend of archery elk season. And this is the perfect time to get in and find those herd bulls before they gather their cows. One thing that you need to keep in mind when you're hunting in the early season is that you're not going to know exactly where the bulls are. You know where the elk are bedding, where they're feeding, and where they're watering. You can kind of gather enough information to begin your hunting strategy. What you're going to be looking for before you do any call setup is something like fresh sign. You're going to want to look for an area that's got a recent rub. You're going to look for fresh tracks, commonly used game trails, a great watering source. It only takes one elk track to mean one good bull is in an area. I want to caution you because I make this mistake literally every year. Never blow your elk calls until you've strategized and set up properly. So before you hit that call, make sure that you have good breakup on your back. Double check what direction the wind is traveling. What are the thermals doing? Any types of terrain features that you might be able to use to your advantage. You don't know what direction the elk is going to be coming from because they're not talking to you. So you really have to pay attention to your setup. If you're fortunate enough to be hunting with a partner, have some sort of system in place so that both of you understand what's going on with your call set so you don't have to use verbal communication during your call set. What I typically like to do, and a lot of my friends and I do together, is that we'll actually separate about 50 yards apart and we'll take turns doing a series of cow-calf talk, mews, chirps, and some really light, non-aggressive either spike squeals or location bugles. Do a small series of these calls and then take a 5 or 10 minute break and just listen around you, keeping in mind that these elk aren't necessarily going to come charging in. You're going to listen for small cues that a bull is approaching, twig snapping, the sound of antlers raking against a tree, just the smallest sounds of a hoof hitting over the top of a log. That is oftentimes what you're going to hear to know a bull is approaching in the early season. If you don't hear a bull coming in after 5 or 10 minutes, do the series all over again. Repeat your cow, calf, mews, chirps, light bugle. You can even try raking a tree. What I like to do in the early season is actually bring in a small elk shed. I put it in my backpack and I use that to rake a tree because it gives me a really realistic sound of a bull in the woods that's actually raking a tree instead of using a stick. With this setup, what you're trying to do is create excitement in an area. You're telling a solo bull or a bull that's in a small bachelor group that there's a group of cows and calves that are in the area and they have a young, immature bull in the herd. This is going to entice those bulls to move in out of curiosity and want to get in on some of the action. With this setup, don't be surprised if you don't hear a bull bugle. More times than not, the bull will not bugle and they'll just simply approach silently. Be patient. You're going to want to spend at least 45 minutes working with your buddy back and forth doing this call sequence, trying to coax in a reluctant bull in the early season. It's really important that you're prepared. Have a bunch of trees range estimated ahead of time. because there's a lot of hunts I've been on. I've kind of tuned out a little bit during a call sequence, and I look up and a bull is standing there staring at me. One general rule of thumb with these silent elk and all elk hunting setups in general is that bulls will often come into your downwind position. If your buddy stops calling all of a sudden, that can be your cue that a bull is coming into him, and it's your job to pick up as a caller. And the reason we do that is because these bulls come in and they often hang up at 70 to 80 yards from where they're hearing the cow sounds. They're looking for elk. If they come in and they don't see elk, they instantly get curious and they go on alert that something might not be quite right. Not everyone is fortunate enough to have a hunting partner during elk season, and I end up hunting quite often by myself a lot. But it is possible to not only call in, but be successful hunting early season archery elk. And I'm going to share with you guys a few tips that have helped me be successful over the years solo archery elk hunting. Keeping in mind that elk will often circle around to your downwind position when you're calling, what I want you guys to try is to do your series of cow-calf, mews, chirps, and a non-aggressive or spike type bugle, and then move 30 or 40 yards to your downwind side. This will put you in a position where hopefully the bull will be circling that downwind side and you're in place for a shot, not where the bull heard you. You're going to want to repeat this sequence as many times as you'd like, but you want to be patient. This can be a really tricky maneuver, so it's really important that you stay on super high alert, be very aware of your surroundings, and slow with your movements. You may even consider using a decoy to help disguise movements from one location to another. But with any luck and a well-implemented strategy, the bull will be looking to where you are calling and not where you're standing. Another solo tip that works really well for me is hunting out of a tree stand. Opening weekend is prime time for tree stand success because you have the advantage of summer pattern. You've figured out where the elk are watering, where they're feeding, where they're bedding. It's a great opportunity for you to set up that tree stand and call in a bachelor bull. Do a series of cow mews and chirps, but in this situation, less is more. You don't want to call so frequently that the bull can pinpoint your exact location. You want to keep him looking for you. Give him enough to be interested to come in, but not so much to where he knows exactly where you're at. Thank you all for joining me, and I hope these early season elk hunting strategies prove to be very successful for you guys this elk season.